Welcome back.
Hey, we're going to be diving into the blind spots in our Temperaments in Ministry quick guide. If you want to get that, you can download that. Click the link in the show notes, or you also can go to catholiccoaching.com. The free resources there, you can grab that and take your temperaments assessment. But awesome to know this, you guys, because ministry has a way of revealing some of our blind spots and our brokenness.
Oh, it's like the way
Yes.
that comes up for you.
But these are great opportunities
Yes.
for growth, for deepening our relationship with the Lord, and actually becoming the transformation that we hope to see in the people to whom we minister. So dive in. We're going to walk through how we've uncovered some of our own blind spots here. And we're going to walk you through a process and how you can actually take insights from this amazing guide that we're getting tons of great feedback on already. Download it, please. Put it to work for yourself. We're going to be modeling to you how you can actually use this guide for your own growth, but also share it with your team so you guys can grow together.
See you in there.
All right. See you guys.
Hi.
Welcome back to the Catholic Coaching Podcast. My name is Matt.
And I'm Erin.
We're the Ingolds. We are your Catholic coaches for the day. We're sticking with a really short series that we've got where we're actually going through our Temperaments in Ministry guide.
Yes.
All right. So the goal here with this guide is to be able to share with you some insights that you can pull from your temperaments to help inform how your team can collaborate better, appreciate one another more, live in your gifts and the roles that God has really designed you to thrive in more, and create more space for really seeing one another for the gift that you are. Last time we talked about the strengths. Today we're going to be talking about the blind spots.
Yeah, it's where all the good stuff happens. All the transformation happens in the blind spots. And also, guys, if you want to get a little sneak peek of this ministry guide in your temperaments, you can go ahead. That should be posted either under this video, if you're watching the video, or in our podcast notes, the show notes. So you can go and grab that. And you can even come along with us for the ride. But yeah, today, what we're doing is we're picking a blind spot that both Matt and I struggle with, not together, but separately, according to our primary temperament. And we are taking that actually through a mindset coaching process, and just kind of walk you through, even we did it on ourselves. So, and we're going to give you guys kind of like a format and a formula to follow as well. So if you want to grab that quick guide and go along for the ride with us, we are happy to be your guides.
Yeah.
Here.
I remember when I got out of the military and I first got into like full-time ministry. And I remember having this presumption that it's like, oh, I'm going to be around people that are giving they're passionate. They're giving their life to Jesus. They're forming other people. They've got it all together, right? They don't have any blind spots. They've worked through those blind spots, and goodness gracious, wrong. And so like at every place, anytime I've entered in full-time parish ministry, like you encounter other people and their blind spots. And guess what? We start to encounter our own as well. And so I used to think that this meant that something was wrong with the ministry, and sometimes we need to kind of work through that, right? But even defining something is wrong, I think that when we start to uncover blind spots, especially personal blind spots, or even recognize maybe a blind spot in one of our colleagues, I think that's actually the ministry doing its work, right? It's appropriate for the ministry to be drawing out our own blind spots and opportunities to grow in our own perfection and charity, so that we might be, really well-formed guides, people that have done their own beam and splinter work, like we say, right? Remove the beam from your eye so you can carefully remove the splinter from your brother or your sister's eyes.
Yeah.
This work is actually part of being in ministry. So it's not like you're there, you've arrived. I used to think that wrong, right? So expect to be triggered in your ministry team. Expect to have moments where you are acting out of fear, to be showing up while you're operating in ministry. These are invitations from the Lord to recognize where there may be some imperfection in you, and he's calling you into a deeper relationship with him. So great good news here. This leader guide is really a great tool to help you identify, right? Maybe some common ways based on your temperament that these blind spots show up, so that you can name those things, claim those things, and really begin an intentional healing in those areas.
I want to add this too, because I think it's important to know, especially because we're talking about ministry. There's an added layer complication, I guess, or resistance. And that is a spiritual layer of resistance. I remember talking to Tony Morbido.
Yeah.
When he first came on to like work at a church. We were working at a church up in upstate New York. I was the youth and young adult minister, and Matt was the DRE. But Tony came on. Were you
from the Marine Corps? Like he had like background working in the military, Marines, like had done some pretty tough stuff.
I remember saying to him, I'm like, listen, I know I'm married to a Marine. I know that you've done like probably just
way more complex things.
Way more complex things. However, this will be the hardest thing that you ever do. And I'm just saying, like, it will be the hardest thing because there's an added layer of resistance. And I remember he kind of like chuckled a little bit, and I'm like, I'm not making it up. I'm like, all right, so when you start noticing it, just let me know. And like down the line, I think it was probably a year later, he's like, I still remember what you said. And he's like, and you weren't wrong. But it's just different
levels.
It was
simple. Yeah. He said, this is a simple job, but it's also the hardest job I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like everything I need to do, like on paper, it's very simple, but there's hard. Because when you're working in ministry, there's a target on your back here as well. Not to over spiritualize everything. And
you can't ignore that.
And you can't
either.
ignore the spiritual component of it as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So the blind spots of your teammates and all of that stuff is going to come up to the surface probably faster and more intense. Just saying.
Yep.
And also when you download this free guide that we have, don't immediately go to your coworkers or your teammates' blind spots and be like, here,
say, look, this is your work to do.
We're really big on you go first. And so that's why both Matt and I, we chose our own blind spots and decided to take it through coaching, our own self-coaching, actually. So.
All right. Ray Charles, where are we going? Blind spots.
All right. So let's see. Okay.
You want to start? You want to go with you?
Yeah. I think the first thing I want to do, so grab a piece of paper and pen if you're going to come along for the ride with us. And I'm going to walk you through the process. And then I'll walk you through my own example, and then Matt will go. Yeah.
So if you pick up this guide and you really want to put it to work for you in an intentional way, we're going to be modeling to you a process for how you might sit down, do some of your own work with it, but then also share it with your team, invite people to do their work with it, and then you guys can kind of powwow and collaborate on it later.
Great. Okay. Cool. So the first thing we want you to do is go and pick a blind spot. On the quick guide, I don't know how many blind spots we have.
Yeah, and the quick guide, you can directly download this from the show notes. So go pop it in there. Also, if you go to catholiccoaching.com, we have a free resources tab. There's a lot of great stuff there, but you can also download this quick guide there. So 2 places you can get it.
And this also is like a prerequisite that you've taken your temperaments and you know what your temperaments test is, which is also one of our free resources.
Yep, you'll find it at the same place.
Okay. So pick a blind spot that actually you have like a recent example of struggling with. And I think a lot of times we can kind of like glaze over this and be like, oh, I've always struggled with this. But the question is, do you have a recent example of struggling with this? So the original blind spots that I chose were not relevant. Actually, it was another one that had
a recent example.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So you want to find the recent example of when you struggled with this blind spot. And then you want to find the thoughts, the belief that is at the root of it that actually caused you to act or not act in this way, because some of these things are inaction, you know, like not standing up for yourself or whatever it is. So whatever the thought is that caused you to act in this way. So a couple questions that you can write down and ask yourself to help you identify what the thought is in that moment, what was I feeling and why? What was I thinking? So that kind of gives you the emotion and the thought. So what was I feeling like in that moment, even right before I did that thing? What was I feeling and thinking?
Yeah. And when you're going with the feeling, a lot of times people insert thoughts when they're saying a feeling, because this is just part of a way that we speak. It's like, I felt like nobody was listening to me. Well, that's a thought. Okay. So if we want to just let's grow in our ability to kind of name our emotions, which is super helpful, you guys, just growing your emotional vocabulary. Try to just pick a 1-word emotion. And it might just be like bad.
Yes.
Bad is a good place to start, right? Can you get a little bit more nuance with it? It's like frustrated.
Yes.
Okay. Or angry. Can you get a little bit more nuance? Defensive.
Yeah.
Annoyed, something like that. So just try to get as specific as possible and really name that emotion and like feel it, maybe even locate it where it's at in your body.
And then you can identify the thought that's leading to the emotion by being like, why was I feeling negative, or why was I feeling frustrated? And here comes the thought. So like, I was feeling frustrated because blah.
Yes.
And that's how you start to find out what the thought is.
Very much a cognitive processing approach.
Yes.
To kind of diagnosing here. Okay.
Some other ways that you can actually kind of uncover the thought is in that moment, what was I afraid of? Okay. And why was I afraid of it? So it's kind of the same process. Like, what was I afraid of and why was I afraid of it? In that moment, what did I not want to happen as an effect? Right? Like, what was I trying to resist from happening? If it were to happen, why is this a problem? And why is this a problem for me? Okay. It might seem like a lot of questions. Write them down. And if you get stuck, just keep writing, keep answering the questions. And really, you just want to choose a thought that feels the most true and that you think like would be the most, I guess, like energetically charged to move you to act in this way.
Yeah. Here's, I'm going to throw one more question in here. And I think this is a different approach for somebody that maybe looks more to the positive side of things versus like, what am I afraid of? I like the question, what am I trying to protect or preserve?
Yes.
It's kind of like the flip side. So it's like, what is the thing that I love that I think is being harmed that I want to protect or preserve? That's another way of getting to the roots.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when that comes up, what am I trying to protect or preserve? Is that just the thought? I'm trying to protect and preserve this.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to waste my time.
Or
like,
if that were to be taken from me,
thank you.
What would I feel?
Sure.
Is that?
I think that's a good way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. So what am I trying to protect or preserve? And if that were to be taken from me, what do I feel and think about that? Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Good. So you guys can like pause, rewind back, write those questions down. But these are just helpful questions to help you find what that thought is that caused you to find that. And here's why it's important to find the thought. Matt, actually, we keep asking our coaches that we're in training, why is it important to find the thought? I'm going to test you.
Well, I immediately go to take all thoughts captive to obey Christ, 2 Corinthians 10:5. And so from a cognitive processing standpoint, it's recognizing that our emotions, the way that we feel, and our emotions incline us to act a certain way, right? Incline us, don't force us, but incline us to act a certain way. Those are coming from like a place in our psyche first. So the body makes visible the invisible reality of the person, what's going on, what are the thoughts that we're thinking. And so in our thoughts, we have perceptions, we have a lens, we have a story that we're telling. And then those stories will incline us to feel certain emotions and then act a certain way. Okay. And so if we're acting in a way that is in our blind spots, which by definition, when you're acting in your blind spots, you're acting out of fear, and fear does not create fruit. Doesn't create good fruit. Let's put it that way. So if we want to actually get to the root cause of our blind spots, we have to go back to the thought, like the perception. And this is a very cognitive processing top layer approach to this. Super helpful. Grow aware of those things. Because when you start to, ultimately we're going to be inviting you into a reframe here. And there's something very empowering about choosing a different word that keeps you out of your blind spots and more in your strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think also the very fact that it's blind spots, I actually like that word, but the awareness of being like, oh, this is actually rooted in a belief about myself, about God, about my situation, whatever. And even just like becoming aware of that and being able to see that is healing in and of itself. Like it's like a great first step. Okay. So
sometimes it's even funny. Like I'll be sitting down with clients and all of a sudden we'll identify a thought and we'll be able to look at it and you can't help but chuckle because it's such a ridiculous thought because all of a sudden you just see it, but still it's a thought that we're choosing. And for whatever reason, it seems protective, but when we start to see how it's showing us, we're showing up in our blind spots and it's not really achieving the goals and the outcomes we're hoping it'll achieve, then we just kind of go back and say with whatever will and agency they have at that moment, be like, okay, is this something you want to continue to think and choose? Okay. So,
Let's do this.
folks, if this at all sounds confusing, Aaron and I are just, we're about to model what this looks like in actuality. Okay. So that's like, we're going to be your demonstration right now.
These are like legit real thoughts. We took ourselves through this process, like 20 minutes before we came on here. So, still a little bit raw, which is fine, I guess.
But the hope in it is they've actually, in both of us, have helped us identify very clear areas of growth that the Lord's inviting us into.
Yes.
And it's like, oh man, there's something so empowering about that.
Yes. Okay.
Cool.
So my blind spot is tendency to avoid conflict or difficult conversations. So, like I said, I had already marked others and I was like, wait, I don't really struggle with those that much. Like I've kind of come up with processes and solutions to, like, I don't know, beat them or I don't know, work through them. But this one I haven't looked at.
As a sanguine.
As a sanguine. So yes, I'm sanguine. And this was really interesting because I was like, I wonder what my secondary is. And the very first one, in the second, and in my phlegmatic, which is my secondary temperament, is tendency to avoid conflict. So I was like, okay, 2 birds with 1 stone. Here we go. I blame my parents. They're both phlegmatics. Never learned this skill. No, I'm just kidding. I never blame my parents.
Yeah, you never had really good conflict resolution model too, because there was no conflict.
Zero. If it was, if it happened, it was like every 5 years behind closed doors. So I never knew. Every time somebody fought with me, it's like, is this it? Are we breaking up? Are we never going to be friends again? You know? Okay. So, tendency to avoid conflict and difficult conversation. So all you sanguines out there, you can relate. All you phlegmatics out there, you can relate. If you can relate, let's do this. All right. So the challenge, this is why this is challenging for sanguines. Sanguines tend to prioritize harmony and avoid addressing conflicts or difficult issues, preferring to maintain a positive or fun atmosphere. Guilty. So the impact that it has on ministry is this can lead to unresolved tensions, miscommunication, and ineffective problem solving within ministry teams. It may also hinder growth and accountability if difficult conversations are not addressed. I recommend you guys actually read through the impact on the ministry and just be like, oh, I really hate this and this and this. And maybe even underline the things that you really don't like. The fact that you're like, oh, this could be creating this. Yeah,
you can take a look at the actual impact where
the fruit.
It might be like, oh, it's not really a big deal. Like, we'll just like, no, this is the disordered outcome that you get from this.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I do not like that it kind of causes ineffective problem solving, because I love solving problems and being like creative with that, but also that it does stunt the growth of the team and the relationships. And I'm not a fan of that. All right. And then it says the solution here is sanguines can work on developing the courage and skills to engage a constructive conflict, recognizing that addressing issues head on can lead to healthier relationships and more effective ministry. If you guys notice, a lot of that might be like, well, yeah, that's great. Now tell me how. Tell me how to do that, or it might be what we call at Mennonite Catholic A-line coaching, which is like giving strategy, which that's the name of it.
Action line, A-line coaching.
Yes, but it's like giving just actions, but not really getting to the root of the issue and like uprooting it. So yes, I'm going to show you kind of what I went through. And Matt, feel free to ask any questions.
Well, yeah,
to clarify.
To the A-line coaching things again, guys. It's recognizing that by God's design, we are bodies that make the invisible visible, right? And so all of our actions, right, the blind spot behaviors are happening because of something in our interior perception in our interior life. All right. And the same thing, the solutions that we propose here in this guide, properly ordered, you need to have your interior all set and aligned with those actions. You can't just kind of white knuckle your way with those solutions while keeping your interior life a mess, right? Because there's still disorder that's there. Rather, we're going to show you how you can kind of go through a little bit of a cognitive processing exercise that we call the reason cycle, and start to kind of release those old thoughts, take on the new thoughts, bring in prayer, repentance, our whole process that we have here, so that the solution becomes something that you become. Like it just naturally flows out of you because you've properly ordered your interior life.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Okay. Good.
Okay. So I picked the blind spot. I already read through all the things that they suggested. And then I go to the recent example, remember? So even just, I didn't want to like speak on like an actual recent example. So I'll be vague, but like I know it in my mind. Okay. Just on our team, like I will notice something and not say it. Okay. That's just, I have like a recent example. I have many recent examples of that.
You try not to trigger me by being a little bit vague.
I'm like,
Matt did this thing. He said this thing.
there's this guy whose name rhymes with Pat
And starts with M.
and starts with an M. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just, I'll notice things and I'll be like, keep the peace. Or I'll notice even my own anxiety of like not wanting to like bring it up. And if I say something, this is the thought. If I say something, they will get upset and think poorly of me. Okay. I looked at that thought because it kind of could be like a couple different thoughts. It could be like, if I say something, they'll get upset. That's like one thought. And then if I say something, they'll think poorly of me. That second portion is stronger for me personally.
Think poorly.
They'll think poorly of me. Okay. And the emotion that comes from that. So we have the thought, and then we ask, the next thing I ask is, how do I feel when I think this? They'll think poorly of me. If I say something, they'll think poorly of me. I feel afraid, fear.
Okay.
And then the actions that I do, and this is clearly, we've already kind of gone through this, and this may seem redundant, but it's not. It's just kind of like confirming something that we already know. But the action is I avoid saying anything. Clearly, this is like the thing that I'm working on. So I avoid saying anything. I end up ruminating on it. And I even start to think poorly of them, which is kind of funny how that works, because I'm afraid to think that they're going to think poorly of me. And because I haven't said anything out loud and aired it out and like spoke to them about it, I'm like, I start thinking poorly of them.
Yeah. Nobody notices too.
I'm really good at it.
Nobody notices. Nobody notices that like there's like that you're there's tension or passive aggression. Nobody notices
He's
that
being
like
sarcastic, everyone.
that you're biting your lips or anything. Like nobody notices. So yeah. And it doesn't create tension.
Yeah.
But I mean, I share that tongue in cheek because like, think of like going back, like I don't want to create disruption or conflict. And here it is. Like you can't hide, you can't hide your interior conflict.
No, but here's the thing. Like, I don't want to create conflict for sure. I don't, but it's because I don't want people to think poorly of me. Like that's at the root of it. Okay. So there's vanity going on in there. And there's like me trying to control other people's perceptions of me. And which, as I start to take this a little bit deeper, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Certainly in the actions, I'm like trying to control people's perceptions of me, trying to protect them, trying to protect from that. So the first question, as I was coaching through this self-coaching, is like, what actually is in my control and what's not? So whenever it's like a thought about somebody else and like somebody else's thoughts about us, a great question is to be like, what's in my control and what's not? Just be clear on locus of control. Okay. So what's not in my control is what they think of me, and whether or not it's poorly or whatever, it's not in my control.
Not in your control. Yep.
Right. But I am trying to control it.
Okay.
Which takes a lot of extra energy. Which was another thought too, by the way. This takes too much energy to like bring it up, But anyway, isn't that funny how that works? I want them to think of me in the best light. All right. So as I was walking through this, I realized that, oh my goodness, I'm actually sacrificing a sincere and authentic relationship, which is a driver for me. I'm like, don't pretend to be friends with me. Just be real. Like actually like say real things. I'm sacrificing that for a fake relationship and really for my own image. And I was like, ugh, I hate that so much. Like gross. Like I'm trying to protect my own image and I'm sacrificing a real relationship that talks about difficult things.
Yeah.
But you come out on the other side. I've literally, and if I were to like psychoanalyze this, I've never had a conversation where it was like changed my life for the worse. You know, it's like where somebody just like screamed at me. Actually, I've had people scream in my face before and it didn't break me. I was like actually okay about it.
Yeah.
But it like that, like, even if I were to go, oh, where does this come from? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm realizing that I'm actually choosing one thing over another, and what I'm choosing it over is like gross. Like, I don't want
you're becoming the inauthentic person that you actually it triggers you or you despise.
I'm becoming like a non-sanguine, non-phlegmatic person.
Yeah.
Which is like not
denying
me.
who you are. You're no longer being authentic.
Right.
No longer even seeing and acknowledging yourself.
Right. Which it was so helpful, because then I repented. Lord, I am so sorry that I am like I'm trying to protect my image over a sincere relationship, which is like opposite of things that I love. And another thing too, because, and I'm not like glossing over the fact that I'm afraid of rejection or even abandonment, you know, in this situation.
Yeah. Like there's a deeper part that's there that just wants to,
for sure.
Yeah. Needs some healing, needs some love right there. Yep.
And I also know, and I shared this on a recent podcast, but like, I know that Jesus was rejected for way like bigger things that he did not do. You know, he didn't actually have any real guilt, you know, but he was rejected, and abandoned. And I know that I can go and be with him in that place. And I know that he has healed me in the past of those rejection and that abandonment.
Yeah, there's relationship, even in the dark discomfort of the abandonment. There's relationship that's there.
Yep.
Which transforms the dark. And
absolutely, it transforms it. And even just reflecting on the fact that he chose to do that for me, like even in this kind of like, I don't know, I maybe in comparison to what he was choosing to do, like it's kind of petty in that sense. I'm not like judging myself, but it's like he chose it just even for something that small. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Even I'm thinking about the letter to the Hebrews today and the readings where it says that Christ had to become man in order to like accomplish what he wanted to do. And even that, like, God had to do something. It's just like, no, God didn't have to do anything, but he chose to do something. And I recently read something where Aquinas addresses this, and he says that God doesn't have to give us a reason, but he still likes to give an ordered reason. So there's something that's very ordered about being able to connect with somebody through a shared experience, right? On a very human level. And so God could have made it such that he could connect with us without necessarily entering into the human drama and the human experience. But he chose to do it that way for our sake, not for his sake, but for our sake. And so there's something that even with that, like it's so incredible to know that, you know, it's humbling to the depths that God has come into so that we can experience in a very human way connection in the midst of abandonment.
Totally. But it's cool because even in my imagination of coming and standing next to him was when everybody was like, crucify him, you know, like the crowd was doing that. I was standing next to him and gosh, I was just like, it was almost like in the prayer, it was almost like telepathic in a sense. It was just like, Lord, what are you thinking about them right now? I know you don't hate them. I know that you're not like even trying to self-protect right now. You're actually choosing to be sacrificed. Like, what are you thinking right now? And like, help me to have that. Like, just help me to grow in that courage in that sense, but also just that fortitude and that love for people. But ultimately, I went very deep and now I'm coming back up, but it was just like this thought. It was like, I'm in really good company. Like, worst case scenario, I get rejected and I get abandoned and people say terrible things and they think terrible things about me, but I'm in really good company. Like, and I know how to meet him there. And obviously I'm not like an expert at it. It's still fairly a new practice for me, but even just knowing that that's an option is like takes incredible weight off. So worst case scenario, I get to be with Jesus in the moment of rejection. Like not a terrible situation, you know. Best case scenario, we have a real conversation. We have like an authentic conversation. We grow together. I mean, I like my odds for both of those, actually. I'm not like mad about it.
Yes. Beautiful.
So really, it's kind of funny because the actual solution is like grow in courage, you know, grow in this courage. And even just in going through that coaching, self-coaching and going through that prayer with the Lord, it was like, okay, yeah, I think I could say something actually.
And it doesn't mean that suddenly you reframe and it feels comfortable to do that work too. Like there's still perhaps going to be a discomfort that's there.
For sure.
Which is really the currency of growth. I remember having a conversation a couple of months ago with Bryant where, you know, Bryant's on his working genius. He's a wonder guy. So wonder asks a lot of these questions and they're great to have on the front end of something. So before you go and invest in a new project or an idea, that wonder or product that wonder, and he's high deliberative too on a strengths finder is and restorative. And he's got that melancholic temperament here as well. He's just really good at asking hard questions. Now, those hard questions are often frustrating questions for the team to deal with because we're excited, especially where you and I were high activator. We want to just get going, and I'm
high positive,
and so it slows down. All right, but at the same time, and there was a point where he's on the call with me. He's like, I'm just going to start pulling back on some of those questions. And I was like, okay, well, there's a little bit of work to do, right, for him to do, but we work through this. And I was like, Brian, if you start pulling back on those questions, you're going to be denying this team an incredible gift that like, you're going to be not denying this team who you are. And it's huge because when you start asking those questions, you actually save us from going down paths and directions that we really ought not be going. So it's a huge gift. And sometimes our gift, folks, is that we are inviting people to grow themselves. Like they need to kind of do their own work. And our gift can be received as a burden to somebody else. Well, they can either get angry with you for giving them that burden of your gift, or they can take that to the Lord and say, okay, like and really receive it. But even that conversation, we learned different ways that he could continue to grow, that we as a team could continue to grow. He could be more sincere with his gift. We can be better receiving the sincerity of his gift.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's like a great point too. Like we aren't saying you need to receive this gift. Like you press it on anyone. Like you have to like temper it, you know, like you actually have to, like if you're going to use the analogy of an actual gift, like wrap it up and like like make it look pretty. Like there's a way of actually presenting your gift in a non like throw it at somebody's face type of
very
thing.
Humbling sort of way. So like say for example, you're like, okay, there's something on the team. It's not like in our meeting, it's rubbing you the wrong way. Like I can say, hey, you know, this isn't fully baked yet. I still might have some of my work to do with this, but there's something right now that I think I just want to put it out there because it's not landing right. And you might be able to share that with the team. There might be somebody else that had that same inclination, but they just didn't know how to put words to it. But suddenly you started to give them a language. And this is how the Holy Spirit often works, is he gives words to the people, the different members of the body that they're meant to share.
You got to go.
Inform with the rest of the body.
Yeah.
I got to go. Okay. Yes. So let's jump over to my example. All right. So my ministry blind spot, primary choleric, it was number one on the sheet here, impatience with others. Okay. And so recently I had, we had been on an ops meeting. I had tasked one of the team members out with doing a task and presuming, I'll just go out and say who it was. It was Hannah. Like I presume she knew what to do and she had enough information.
We love you, Hannah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like this is my work, not your work. Okay. So it was, I said like, okay, I want you to kind of schedule the stuff out that we've got and you know what to do, go do it. Okay. And then Hannah came back and was just like, I need a little bit more than that. Like I could do like operate with what you've given me, the information that you've given me, but it's a little bit frustrating for me because I'm not sure if I'm really hitting the mark with I'm not sure what winning looks like just yet. And so this is where my impatience trigger starts to come up. Okay. Because I have this thought at that moment that is, where is it? What was the one I captured? It was like, now I have to, now I have to actually invest the time in this, or now I have to give more of my time to this. Okay. And so here I am. I'm a choleric. I value efficiency. I hate waste. My first inclination here is that, man, now I have to give my time. Maybe I shouldn't. It should be, the burden should be on, Hannah to figure it out. And so that was my first kind of like, it was a little bit of an eye roll moment. Again, Hannah, my work, not your work. Okay. So, when I look to like the implications of what impatience does, okay, the impact that it does, impatience can alienate team members, stifle collaboration, and create a tense environment. They might unintentionally undermine others' confidence, especially those who need more time to process or act. Right. And so here I was, it's like, you should, like, this is kind of another thought that's there. You should be able to figure this out on your own, Hannah. And so there, again, it's this should, but all the while, the emotion of kind of annoyance that I'm feeling, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm not giving further clarity to actually help her to do it. And I actually feel inclined to actually say, I'm just going to do it myself. Right. Which kind of thrusts into another blind spot, which is where you can take on other people's work. Right. And it's just like, and clerics, have you ever been out there where it's just like,
yes,
I'll just do it myself. Right. Or that stupid phrase where it's like, you want something done right, do it yourself. It's like, that was made by a cleric in his blind spot.
For
right?
sure.
So here it's like, okay, what's the solution that I really want? Clerics can learn to practice patience by understanding that others may have different work styles and that some decisions require more time for proper discernment. But also I could add to that. It's like some people need a little bit
more clarity. Or be taught how to do it.
Right. They need a more clarity of vision. My people perish for lack of vision. And so here was like, I realized that I was really abdicating a responsibility that is mine, proper to my state in the company, in terms of like being a leader in the organization, to give a clear vision. And also something that I'm not doing in my impatience. I'm not going to the source of the clear vision, which is God himself, to receive the vision. And I'm going more into like a hyper do it myself kind of mode. Right. Yeah. Okay. So recognizing that, it's like, okay, I need to, rather take this thought of she's wasting my time, or now my time's gonna be wasted. I need to repent of that. Right. And even repent of my abdication.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or my idolization of my time.
Yeah.
Yes. My, like the vision that I have for my time where I'm repent of my abdication of my responsibility to be the visionary and step into that role. But when I did a little bit more work on this, underneath it was a sense of shame. And was a shame from the thought that I'm failing as a leader. And this started to point like, well, I haven't given her clarity. And so therefore I don't have the clarity. And it starts to really even assault my identity as a leader here in Metanoia.
You know, what's so crazy about that? What? That's like the number one melancholic blind spot, perfectionism.
Okay.
Like I've failed, or yes. Okay. And that leads to shame.
Yes. And so here it was revealing to me also this deeper idol that I had, this guy that has to have it all together. I call him the golden child. Here he is. He's showing up again. And so again, what I see here is the Lord again, inviting me into to grow aware of where this idol is still present in my life. And so I can repent of that idol, and I can renounce that idol in the name of Jesus. But also I can, like, in that place of saying, all right, like even removing that manager, removing that idol that's kind of standing in the way of like this part of me that feels very alone and perhaps afraid of the responsibility of being the leader and the visionary. Just being able to bring that kind of childlike part of me that doesn't know, that still doesn't know, that doesn't have clarity of the vision, and bringing him to the Lord and being like, okay, Lord, this is like, I really don't, and like, I don't know what to give here. And I need you I need you to give me the vision to be able to bring this clarity to my team. You know what
keeps coming to mind is like the image of Jesus always going off and like praying, speaking to his Father by himself. Can you imagine the weight that he felt? So like, oh, I'm like leading. Obviously,
he always did that before something big too.
He was fully God and fully man, yes, but he was human, right? So there's that probably a little bit of that trepidation and being like, Father, I don't know how like you're going to have to show up here and guide me. And I'm just taking like my situation where I could go stand next to Jesus and like actually like ask, hey, what are you going through? Like, what are you thinking right now? Like there might be a similar thing that you could take that part of you.
It is
fearful part of you.
And what I've experienced is the Lord inviting me into a deeper level of obedience as a leader. And so the proper interior disposition is one of obedience before the Lord. And that obedience to the Lord and the vision starts to restore order to all those disordered parts, all the disordered areas of our life. And it reveals all of the idols, right? Where prior to this, I'm being obedient to this idol image of myself. The guy has it all together, has the clear vision. I got it all figured out. I'm done with the journey like that. And being able to kind of release that so that I can put myself in a posture of obedience, be the servant, be the steward here that he's inviting me to be. And a steward is in relationship with the Father, the one that's actually the owner, the one that actually the glory all belongs to. And so I even this trigger, guys, you can see how this work starts to invite us into a deeper relationship that is grounded in obedience and the proper, call it proper order to the relationship with the Father, like where I get to ground my identity in being his son, but now I'm experiencing it on a deeper level. And now I get to go after receiving that vision and just being confident that the Lord is he hasn't called me to a place where he's calling me to there for shame, but he's calling me there because he wants to make his glory manifest in me in this particular area. There's a new level of confidence that I can now enter into that conversation with Hannah, and with the clarity of vision, but also the humility where it's just like, okay, this is the best I can understand it right now. And even being able to enter the conversation where at the end of it, she was like, I know how to do my job better. And she started to do the work, and I started to give her feedback, and it was like she was knocking it out of the park right now. And she's doing so much more like confidently. So it was a huge, beautiful restoration that took place.
I'm looking at the perfectionism one because that was kind of like where it led to for you.
It's a big, quick guide here, guys.
This is not the quick guide. This is the full report.
Oh, we're looking at the full report.
Which you can find actually in our academy if you want the full report. But so melancholics can learn to embrace imperfection and understand that ministry is about progress, not perfection. They can practice self-compassion and set realistic goals that allow room for growth and learning.
Literally fell into that solution. But really the way that I fell into it wasn't white knuckling my way there, but rather is entering into that relationship with the Lord where and allowing him to restore the order to my to the disorder where I was being obedient to the idol of perfection, that golden child, rather than the vision that the Lord was giving to me. Yeah,
we both uncovered some idols here. It was like people's image of me, or like I don't know what that, but it was vanity for sure. And so like, guys, this is good work. This is deep work. You never thought a quick guide could take you this deep, but it did.
So like even the quick guide, guys, it's a great tool for starting to uncover some things, but you're not meant to go through this on your own. Erin and I didn't learn this in isolation by ourselves. We didn't even learn it from just picking up the journal that we have, which is a great tool that walks you through some steps. Our mindset journal walks you through some steps of doing some of this reason cycle work, this cognitive processing work. But really the ideal condition to learn this is to have it modeled for you. We do that in our academy. We have coaches that are trained in our model that can actually do some one-on-ones with you. And then we have other opportunities for some group experiences and that continue to draw you from that awareness and start to learn the skills. It is a skill of what we call the reason cycle, which is, demonstrated what we just demonstrated here today. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So
we literally did this 20 minutes before, but also speaking out loud to somebody else kind of, I don't know, brought completion to it. Kind of brought it deeper and
new depth.
So thanks for being with us and listening. Hopefully some of the things that we uncovered actually were helpful to you if you relate to us.
So, hey, what's coming next for the podcast? really excited. We're going to have Jim Jansen on here soon from Archdiocese of Omaha. He just released a book called A Clear Path, which is all about discipleship, right? And the clear path for making this missionary disciples. There's a big word, discipleship, here, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited with even what the Lord's given to our commission that He's given us at Metanoia, and how we can help people to really come to that place of conversion that the discipleship models are really focused on here. So I'm excited to have Jim on here. Stay tuned for that. But we're also going to be releasing a new quick guide here coming up, and it's going to be temperaments and parenting.
Yep.
Fun. We're going to dedicate a couple of episodes to that. And so if that interests you, I can actually use insights for your temperament on how to create more connection and peace in your home. Then please subscribe to the podcast so you get those episodes when they hit.
Boom.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Blessings.
We'll see you later.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.